Whew. All right, welcome everybody. So glad that you're here. Hoping you can all hear me and see me. We had a little bit of technical difficulties there. But here we are. So let's get going. First of all, I think the very first person that was on the line today was Bob Heineman. And so I was teasing Jen, who does our technical stuff, that Bob, you may have had to run this by yourself. So you should be grateful that you don't, right? Okay, so I want to welcome everybody for coming. This is the first of our 4-part webinar series that we're focusing on things that are impacting all of us during this pandemic. And we have some guest hosts for each of the sessions, which I thought would just make it fun. You know, I mean, we have serious stuff to talk about, but we also want to have a good time. First off, though, I should give a shout out to Beaver County Behavioral Health, who has certainly sponsored us today and made it possible for us to put this on and for everyone to come and to come for free. And we're really grateful for that. So they really recognize how important for all of us provider types to be taking care of ourselves while we continue to take care of everybody else. And I was just talking to someone this morning from BCBH. I was talking to Danielle Romball, and she was talking about all the work the county is doing to try to I'm going to keep talking, but maybe no one's hearing me. All the work that the county is doing to make sure that all the providers are getting what they need, because providers are really struggling and having a hard time because they want to keep serving clients. So it was kind of heartwarming to hear that is all still going on. Another really huge shout out, would be to Jennifer and to Kim from Educational Training Consultants. They are the ones who kind of coordinate all this. They're the ones who called me and said, hey, do you have any ideas? And then they kind of helped me think through some thoughts and helped get this going. And they help with all the technical stuff. So Jen, if I thought I was stressed, Jen was really, and Kim were super stressed trying to get this going on. So those are important things to talk about. We have 3 more sessions coming up after today. The next one is going to be on Wednesday next week. And that one is entitled Get Off of My Cloud, which is a great song by the Rolling Stones. Jack Manning, who is one of our Beaver County commissioners, is going to be joining us. And we're going to talk about just how different life is now. And I think it'll be really, really interesting. I promised Jack that I would not surprise him with any political questions. So it's not going to be, even though he's a commissioner, it's not going to be a political session, so to speak. Then next Friday, we're going to be joined by Kate Lowry, who is the Beaver County Single County Authority for Drug and Alcohol. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the drug and alcohol world. So it's important for us to remember that we still are in the middle of an opioid epidemic, even though we're also having now a pandemic. So addiction issues didn't just go away. We have to kind of focus on those too. That session is titled I Drink Alone. One of my favorites by George Thorogood. And then Friday, May the 15th, we're going to be joined by Marie Timpano, who is the executive director of the Cornerstone of Beaver County. We're going to talk about the importance of home and homelessness and what's going on in those worlds. And then Marie is a musician, so we're going to talk about some of the healing powers of music. So we got good stuff coming up. What I want to start with today, first of all, I can't tell you how glad I am to be here. We were supposed to start our COD training several weeks ago, and we had to postpone, and they're postponed now indefinitely. I miss seeing you guys. So I'm glad to see that there are some familiar faces that are here today. Actually, I don't see your faces, but I see your names. And people from Marikey, all my people that I appreciate all your work from probation. There's some school people here, of course, some BCBH people. So I'm glad to know that you're here, even though I can't see your faces. And then I saw some names on the list of registrants of people that I don't think we've met before. So nice to meet you in some weird virtual way. And I'm glad that you're here. The last couple of years, I've focused on stigma. And that's been kind of one of my soapboxes to look at stigma of people that have mental health issues or drug and alcohol issues. This year I wanted to go a little bit different because I think a lot of people are focusing on stigma now, which is good. And one of the things I'm focusing on this year is to think about who are the people that inspire us and who are the people that we inspire. And that holds true right now during this pandemic. So this morning, I have to say, I was telling you earlier about talking to Danielle and about all the things that Beaver County Behavioral Health is doing in the county to keep everybody going. And I think it's kind of behind the scenes work, but I was really inspired by just knowing that the cogs are still turning and that people are still out there trying to save the world. That was very inspiring to me. So I want you just to take some time today, tomorrow, think about who it is in this pandemic that is inspiring you. And then also remember that you are inspiring other people. So think through who that might be, because we forget that sometimes. And it's important to know that we are the inspiration for others as well. So moving on. Let's see. I have to check my text here really quick and see if our co-host can join us. Otherwise, I have to move on without him for a while. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest host, who hopefully will make it today. His name is Steve Coley, and he is a corrections officer. No, he's not a corrections officer. I asked him his title, and now I forget it. When he comes on, he can tell us. But he works at the Beaver County Jail. All around fun guy. Very into sports and really missing that right now. Definitely a family guy. Really loyal and caring to his wife and his son. And he's dealing with life at home just like the rest of us are, with kids at home trying to do school while we're trying to do work. And we love seeing our families more, but then sometimes they get on our nerves. So he's kind of experiencing all that too. The first time I met Steve, we were at a jail meeting. I was invited to come to a jail meeting to talk about Narcan. And we were talking about maybe giving Narcan to getting it in the hands of inmates as they were being released if they had an opioid use disorder, because one of the things we know is that people with an opioid use disorder have a extremely high rate of overdose and overdose death in the first 2 weeks after release from jail, or after they are discharged from rehab or hospital. And so we were talking about that. And that very first time I met Steve, he had a lot of questions. He had a lot of pushback. He was kind of like, why should we be doing this? But what I really liked about him and saw right away was that he was still open-minded. So he was opinionated, but he was still open. And I thought that was really a nice thing. So I love that about him. And he and I, I've learned over the years that he and I've gotten to know each other are probably much closer together in our ideals and values than I thought we were. Okay, so hang with me because I'm getting a message here that says, can you, oh, somebody said they miss me. Thank you so much. Can you click on the video camera next to Steve's name? Okay, I'm gonna try to do that. No, I can't. I cannot, Jen. If you can hear me, Jen, I can't. When I try to click on Steve, I can unmute him. Nope, I can't even unmute him. I can make him the host.
Don't do that.
Oh, wait, Steve, I hear you.
I have microphone. I don't have video.
Okay, so Jen, can you keep working on Steve's video? Somehow we got him, we can hear him, but it would be nice if we could see you too. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jill.
How are you? I'm
good. I have props, but if I don't have video, I can't use my props.
Oh, you even brought props. All right, Jen's working on it. Jen is working on it. She wants to know, she said, how did you do that? And Jen, I have no idea. Because when I thought maybe you did it, because when I go next to Steve's name, it says more, and it says I can chat, make him the host, change the attendee, rename him or put him on hold. And then it did have a microphone. That must have been what I did. I hit the microphone and that's how I can hear him. Okay, so Steve, hopefully we're gonna get to your props. Jen's gonna keep working on it.
All right.
But tell us so you're at work today.
Yes.
Where are you at the jail? Are you inside? Are you outside?
I'm up in admin in the one of the little lunchroom areas we have.
Okay. Someone says if you make him a host, he will have host capabilities, probably including video. Yeah, I think that's what Jen's working on. Thank you, Rachel. I think the difficulty is, can we have two hosts at the same time? So she's working on that. If you have more info for her, that'd be great. Thanks so much. Okay, so Steve, so you're inside. What are things like at the jail? What would you say the kind of atmosphere is like during the pandemic? Anything different than usual?
It's quiet. It's very, very quiet. There's not a lot going on, and there's not a lot of people coming in or leaving.
Yeah. And the people that are there that have been there, do they understand what's going on?
Kind of. They question kind of how things are out there. They seem a little apprehensive about kind of how things are out in the world, but for the most part, I mean, it's all over the news. You can't get away from it, so they know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Everywhere.
And they're still able to talk with their families, but they're not able to see them. Is that right?
They have the virtual visits on the iPads, on the pods.
Okay.
That's the only way they could see their family. There's no actual in-person visitation right now.
Okay. And some of them had virtual visits before anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they're getting information from their families too about what's going on in the world and how their families are doing and things like that.
Yep.
Okay. And how's the staff holding up? Because that's stressful for you guys. You have to keep work.
It's actually here. It's been kind of, we were kind of ahead of the game in some of the things we did. When I'm seeing stuff from other prisons on the news and stuff, we'd started that almost a month before some of them did. So things have been kind of contained and quiet and, calm here. Nothing crazy going on.
Ahead of the game.
It seemed that way. Yeah, seems that way.
Awesome. That's awesome. How are things at home for you and your family?
Boring. Miss a lot of the running around, but also it's nice to kind of, take a step back and kind of relax for a little bit and not have those deadlines that you have to meet and, be at this soccer field at this time and, that, baseball field at that time and all that other stuff. So it's kind of nice in that aspect, but, it's kind of getting to the point where I'm itching to get back out to doing things.
Sure. So you're going to work. Your son's home. He's 11.
Mm-hmm.
He's home doing his schoolwork. And your wife, is she going out to work? She's
at home.
Okay. So I think that's one of the things I was thinking about the other day. For people who have younger kids, I'm kind of lucky because my kids are 16 and 19, so they're pretty independent. But people who have younger kids, like when people have to start going back to work, what are we going to do with those kids? This online schooling isn't really a sustainable kind of thing to do.
Well, the danger with that too is, part of schooling is kids learn social interactions and social constructs and how to deal with, coping mechanisms and stuff like that. And you don't learn that on a tablet doing math problems at home.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I think that's one of the biggest things that people are missing out. I know that I miss that. Like I miss, you remember that day, this was weeks ago, Steve, when the pandemic was just starting. We didn't have to wear masks yet, but we were social distancing. And I ran into Steve coming out of Beaver Super. And of course, my initial instinct was like, hey, Steve, was to give him a big hug. And we couldn't. I miss that, being able to see my friends, see people I care about, and just give them a little hug.
Yeah, one of the weirdest things for me was I was at the hardware store and a guy had like 15 light switch covers and he dropped them. And 3 or 4 people took a step to help him pick them up. And then everyone kind of backed away 3 steps because they didn't know, no one knew what to do. And it was very, very weird and awkward. And I didn't like that at all.
Yeah. Well, and then I realized the other day I went to Giant Eagle and I probably went down the aisles the wrong way. I didn't realize that they had marked them. And, you have masks on, so it's hard to tell if people are smiling at you or, telling you what to do under their breath. So I just was doing my thing in the aisle. And then I talked to a friend of mine later that night and she said, I was at Giant Eagle and this lady yelled at me because I went down the aisle the wrong way. And I thought, oh, I bet I was going down all the aisles the wrong way. I just was lucky nobody decided to yell at me. So a couple of things about coronavirus that I wanted to just mention because I think it's so confusing and information out there is kind of crazy. So coronavirus in and of itself is a group of diseases that are anywhere from the simple kind of common cold to some very serious things. This COVID-19 is called a novel coronavirus because it is never been seen in humans before. So it's a new thing. It's respiratory. It's passed most easily from person to person, and we're not seeing a lot of it in kids, which is kind of interesting. Mostly kids that are getting it, it's because they have some pre-existing illness. So I guess that's good to kind of protect our kids as a whole. But also what I've heard is that kids can then be carriers with no symptoms, and then they can give it to, older people like us. So best things to do are wash your hands at least 20 seconds with soap and water. Use a hand sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol in it, which as a drug and alcohol professional always makes me a little nervous that we have so much hand sanitizer with that level of alcohol in it. So readily available. Stay away from people that are sick. And if you're sick, then stay home yourself as well. And then we'll see what's going to happen on May the 9th. The current stay at home and requirement for masks and things is in place right now till May 8th. We'll see what happens after that, right? Are you wearing a mask at work? Do you guys wear masks at work, Steve?
Yeah, we're wearing masks here. Either bring it home or they provided us masks from the state, which I'm sure you've seen on WPXI because Allegheny County Jail has the same ones.
Okay. I did not see that. Why were they on PXI?
The officers union at Allegheny County doesn't like those ones that they were given.
Oh, I see. I don't like them at all. I mean, I've worn a homemade mask when I've gone out into the store, which I think has only been like 3 times. And I don't like that feeling over the face. It almost gives me like a little bit of a panic attack.
I don't like them either.
What's that, Steve?
I don't like them either.
Yeah. I can't imagine having to wear it all day. And then one of the things that I'm starting to think about right now in my practice, all the therapists are doing their therapy from their homes. They're doing telehealth, myself included. But we have patients that don't really like that and really want to get back into the office. So right now I'm trying to think about what's the best, most appropriate thing to do there. But if we had patients come back in the office, if I had a patient come in, Steve, if you were my patient, you came in, then you'd have to wear a mask and I'd have to wear a mask. And that's a weird way to do therapy.
It's a very weird way.
Yeah. Now, could we do it? We could. But I'm trying to decide which is better. Make people just keep doing telehealth, or do we try to get through this mask therapy? I don't know. I don't know the right answer. We'll figure it out kind of as we go, right? So when I asked Steve if he would do this with me today, he said that he would. I was grateful. And then I asked him if there was anything particular he wanted to talk about. And Steve, you said, let's talk about social media. So what made you want to talk about social media?
I think social media is dangerous to begin with. And I think with everything that's going on right now, it's just kind of getting worse. Like there's a lot of people, you click on whatever medium platform you're using, and there's a lot of people just arguing with each other nonstop all day. And that can't be, it can't be healthy mentally to put yourself through that anxiety, stress, anger, all those emotions when you could go do something more productive. Right.
Absolutely. So there isn't a ton of research about long-term effects of social media because it's relatively new. So we know some of the short-term effects, and we can't anticipate what some of the long-term effects will be, but time will tell. But there are some good things, Steve, about social media. So what do you think are some of the good things?
I mean, there's a lot of information out there, not even necessarily coronavirus related. Like the other day, I was online looking for a couple hours about how to become a beekeeper because I want to get a hive.
Oh, yeah?
I like that idea. My wife did not like that idea. So it was kind of, negative on that aspect. But, so there's good information out there, but there's a lot of, bad stuff out there as well.
Yeah. I think beekeeping would be cool. It's a little scary, but I guess they don't really sting you if they're swarming, right?
From what I heard, you do get stung, but like if you're careful, you minimize the stings.
All right, hang on here for me 1 second, Steve. Jen says, Jill, can you click on the 3 dots by panelist and see if you can name a co-host? I'm going to say no, Jen. Yeah, sorry guys about this. Jen, I'm going to say no, that I don't seem to see that anywhere. Okay, so Steve, here are some of the research-based things that are positive aspects of social media. It is, and I think some of these are true. Great way for us to communicate and stay up to date with our friends and our family from around the world. So I know I have friends that the only thing I know about them is what they post on Facebook, because we don't connect anymore except through Facebook. Do you have friends like that, Steve?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's kind of fun, I think. I think it's kind of fun. My 3 best girlfriends from college, one is in Texas, one actually lives here in Beaver, and one is in Maryland. We have a Facebook page just for the 4 of us, and no one else is allowed on it. It's a private Facebook page, and it's just a way that we can kind of keep track of what's going on with each other and our families. So it's kind of fun. So that's a good thing. It does allow us to find new friends and communities and network with people who share similar interests. So that's a really good thing. Has there been something on social media, Steve, that you've learned or that's piqued your interest about something that you maybe wouldn't have thought about?
Yeah, I go down rabbit holes all the time with like those, the crazy Russian hacker guy videos where he, tests out 10 different axes. And so I watch those kind of stuff. And,
yeah, that's good stuff, right? You can join in or promote worthwhile causes, raise important awareness on important issues. Even some of the people who are joining us today maybe found this through Facebook, because I posted on Facebook and a number of people shared it. And so that's kind of a good thing. People can seek and offer emotional support during difficult times. Sometimes I think that's a positive and a negative. Like, you see those people that post like terrible, terrible things that are going on in their world, in their lives, things that I would probably keep private, but they just make it public. But they do get some support through that, and maybe that's the best way they can find it. Good social connection for people who are in remote areas. So that's a good thing, people who can't get out. And right now, I think it's helpful because we're all kind of remote. An outlet for creativity and self-expression, and you can discover sources of valuable information and learning if you're careful.
Very careful.
Can you think of any other positive things, Steve, about social media?
No, I mean, I think you kind of covered them all. I mean, the biggest one for me that I like is like, I don't get to see some of my nieces and nephews and, some of my friends' kids and stuff. So I see kind of pictures and videos of what they're doing. And, that kind of, it's almost like you get to see them, but
yeah,
not together.
I don't know what's going on. I think for younger people too, I don't know if you've experienced this with your son yet because he's younger, but my daughter has social media friends at 16 years old from other countries. She has this international group of people that she's never met, but they have a connection through social media. I think that's beautiful and worldly. It also scares the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Because are those people really who they say they are? One time my daughter was on FaceTime with this boy. His name was Anthony. He was from Canada. But I was upstairs and I could hear their conversation, which seemed perfectly innocent. But he sounded like he was 25 years old. He had this super deep voice. And I called Evie over and I was like, who are you talking to? And she's like, Anthony from Canada. And I said, he sounds like he's 25. And she's like, he's not. So she's like, do you want to meet him? I'm like, yes. So we went down and he and I had a conversation and I said, and clearly he was like a 14-year-old boy. And I said, Anthony, you sound like a 25-year-old man. And he said, I know, I get that a lot. But, I think one of the best things I heard about social media is the younger generation has the knowledge about how to use technology, but we are the ones that have the wisdom. And I think that's so important that our kids can connect to people all over the country. They know how to do that. I don't know how to do that, but they do. But they don't always have the wisdom to know what the red flags are and how to be careful. So, all right. So let's talk about some of the negative things, Steve. These are studies that they've done short term. negative aspects of social media. Increased risk for depression, especially if it takes place of face-to-face contact. So we think in the short term, social media makes us feel better, but in the long term, it seems to add to depression. What do you think about that, Steve?
I believe that. I mean, it's important to have in-person relationships with people too, not just online or through the internet.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of studies that have been done about how important it is for face-to-face, eye-to-eye contact, and how just healing and comforting that can be. You know, even when we're dealing in my world with anxiety, when we're trying to de-escalate people, sometimes just being able to, say, it depends on the situation, but to say, look at me, just look at me for a second. That contact that eye-to-eye can really be soothing for people. So it's not surprising, I think, the social media increases depression. It also increases anxiety and loneliness and isolation, which you would think if I'm having all this interaction with all these people, then why would I feel more isolated? But that's the case. They said that Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram increases feelings of loneliness, and reducing social media can make people feel less lonely and improve their overall well-being. That was a study out of the University of Pennsylvania. Increased risk of self-harm and suicidal thoughts. And then there's this whole FOMO, fear of missing out, which most people post only their best stuff on Facebook. And so when people look at that, they think, well, my life's not that great. And they lose perspective that person, you're only seeing the positive things. That's one of the things I think you were kind of talking about, Steve, is like the inaccuracy of what we see on social media.
Yeah, I see that. You see people doing stuff with like this homeschooling where there's some people that are doing 50-step color-coded scavenger hunts with their kids every day. And, there's some people just getting by, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to be doing above and beyond just because you saw online someone, pinned it on their Pinterest board or whatever it is that you're looking at.
Right.
There's different ways to do things, and there's different ways to spend time with your kids. Like, you don't need to, have these extravagant days planned that you see on social media all the time. You're going to drive yourself nuts if you try to keep up with that.
Exactly. Okay.
You still trying to get my video up?
Yes, we are, Steve.
It ain't working.
It's not working. So I think I can switch to you. I'm going to do this for a second.
Oh, don't switch to me.
You're going to be on camera here. So I'm going to switch the host to you.
Will it keep it with you?
No.
Oh, someone raising their hand.
Could you?
I think.
I think everybody still sees me. I made Steve Cooley the host, but I still see myself.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. That's what
you could have done it the whole time anyway.
Steve, it's so good to see your face. The props. He brought the props.
I did bring props.
Jen, thank you so much. Whatever you did to figure this out, we appreciate it. Okay, fear of missing out, inadequacy about life or appearance. Okay, cyberbullying. What do you have to say about cyberbullying?
I see that a lot. Just scrolling down like your feeds and stuff, you see people arguing all the time, and people are getting mean to each other, real mean. There's, unfortunately, today with how things are, people think you have to either be right or wrong, and there's actually a middle ground where like both people can be right or both people can be wrong. You don't have to be 100% on one side or 100% on the other. So, I think that's kind of important to remember. And you just see people just going, all day, just paragraph, back and forth. It's just, I can't imagine that being fun for anyone.
Right. Yeah, I think I think that's something that society as a whole has kind of missed is, I have a right to have my opinion, and I can base that on whatever I want. And you can have yours. You okay over there, Steve?
Yeah, someone's trying to call in here. I don't know who's trying to call in.
Maybe they have a burning question for you.
They must.
it's I think it is okay that, you know, that you and I can disagree on a topic, and that doesn't mean that that you're wrong just because you think differently, or that makes you a bad person. You know, I
Yeah,
think
like,
example you used was like the Steelers and the Ravens.
yep, like a Steelers fan will never convince a Ravens fan to be a Steelers fan. And
No.
a Ravens fan is never going to convince a Steelers fan to be a Ravens fan. And that's
Mhm.
okay for a Steelers fan to be a Steelers fan and a Ravens fan to be a Ravens fan. But people are arguing with each other day in and day out, trying to convince them to be on their team. And you're not going to win. There's
Right.
just no winning.
Right. Right. I remember a couple of years ago, my aunt and uncle, you know, I'm originally from Baltimore, but I always remind people that when I left Baltimore, the Ravens were still the Browns. So I have no allegiance to the Ravens. But my aunt and uncle still lived in Baltimore, and we brought them up a couple of years ago for a Christmas Day game, Ravens versus the Steelers. And I was really impressed. My uncle had his Ravens hat on. My aunt, she didn't dress with anything, but um, you know, the crowd kind of ribbed them a little bit, but it was all good natured. And I was kind of worried about it because I thought, who knows what Steelers fan might give these Ravens fans a hard time, but that's how it should be. You know, it's like you can have some healthy ribbing of each other, but in the end, just let everybody believe what they want to believe. You
Well,
know?
that's the thing, too. In person, people will act a little bit differently than they will across a keyboard and across a screen where they have a little bit more, you know, anonymity or distance or
Yes.
whatever. You know, some of the things people say online and do online, just you would never even think about doing that in person to someone else.
Well, I think it's like driving a car. Like people are much more aggressive about giving somebody the finger or cutting somebody off or whatever if they're in a car. But if they had to do that face to face to the person, probably not so much. And I think social media is like that. It gives the people a false sense of what's the word I'm thinking about? Like invincibility.
Mhm.
But that's really not the case. So one of the other things, negative aspects of social media that the study focused on was self-absorption. And I tell you what, I see this in my girls, my 16-year-old daughter, my 16-year-old stepdaughter. They are constantly taking pictures of themselves, you know, making a fish face, like, and when you're in the middle of a conversation and they have to take a picture of themselves. Uh, exactly. So I think that is what are we teaching our kids? Like that self-centeredness, that self-absorption. I think in the long run, in the long term, we're going to see some impact from that. Do you see
Oh,
that
definitely.
with your boy at 11?
No, he's kind of oblivious to that. He has started to kind of talk about like stuff, but he's kind of not into that really at all.
Yeah. I think there is a difference between the sexes, between for kids anyway. I think there's a difference between boys and girls, at least from what I've seen with my kids. The girls seem to be much more focused and absorbed than the boys can kind of let it sit for a while and go, you know, play ball or play music or something.
Mhm.
Now, we'll see what happens with your son as he gets older, because that might change. But the other thing about social media and kids, and this makes me crazy. Do you know how many young people, you know, like 13, 14, 15, 16, are sending naked pictures of themselves to other kids?
I would imagine. I mean, I don't have any personal knowledge of any of that, but
It's crazy. Like with my daughters, my 16-year-old daughters, like they'll tell me, they'll be like, so and so sent me a, you know, picture of a thing. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And one time my stepdaughter was like, here, look. Yeah, exactly, Steve. One time my daughter was like, here, look at it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't look at that. He's like 16. Like, and I know his mother. Like, I can't be looking at that. But I wonder, like, what is that going to mean in the long run for what we're teaching our kids about sexuality and self-respect and those types of things?
I thought I heard somebody in here.
that,
Someone joining you?
the warden just poked his head in.
He can chop in and have something to say. We'd love to see him. He's not
I
gonna
think
do it.
he was on his way down the hall.
He's like, I'm out of here. Okay, so a couple things, because I want us to talk about humor and to be, although you're already funny, but a couple things that people can do with social media to help their mental health. First of all, the University of Pittsburgh found that reducing, now listen to this, reducing social media to no more than 30 minutes a day is the best for mental health. So I don't know, for all of you who are here today, think about it. Do you think you spend more than 30 minutes a day on social media?
I would say the majority of people do.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you do?
That's hard to say. Some days, yes, some days, no. Like I can go
Yeah.
a full day without even looking at it if I'm doing other stuff. You know,
Yeah.
mostly with my phone, I'll put like Pandora on and, you know, go cut the grass. And I'm out there for 2 hours. I don't even look at anything. But,
Right.
you know, so it's not even about like necessarily being on social media just because I have my phone with me and it's on.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but 30 minutes a day, I think that would be really, really hard to limit to 30 minutes a day. But but they said also any reduction. So if you look at how much social media time you're spending now, and most people during the pandemic are spending more time on social media because we have less time, we have less activities to go out and do. So if you look at, even track it, how much time are you spending in a day, and then try to decrease it some, those are good things. Turn off your phone at certain times a day. So we always have, when we have family dinner, we always say no electronics at the table.
We do that too.
So those are good times that you don't necessarily have to limit how much time, but you have to have certain spaces in your day where you say, I'm not doing this. I'm not looking at this. Don't bring your phone to bed. What were you going to say, Steve?
I actually deactivated my accounts for Lent one year, and it was weird. You know, by the end of it, I was kind of like, I didn't even care to get them back. I mean, I obviously turned them back on, but you know, it was a nice break.
Did you, like when you first did that at the beginning of Lent, did you have a little bit of withdrawal?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Little irritable, little.
No, I don't know about irritable, but like it would be, you know, times that I normally look at my phone, like I'd be sitting there and I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, yeah. But by the end, you were like over it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. But you did decide to get them back, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's hard to be without them in this day and age, especially once you get into them. Don't bring your phone to bed. So there's been a lot of studies about how actually just the blue light from electronics, even if they're off, it affects the melatonin and some of the other chemicals in the brain and in the body, and can keep us from having good sleep. But a lot of people, and I'm a big culprit of this, look at I check out Facebook right before I go to bed. And like you said, that can lead down a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
You're like onto something else and not getting to sleep. Disable the social media notifications if you have them. So there's no reason to have to look every time you get a notification. You know, you can go in, whenever you go in, you can still see your notifications. And then assess your motivation for why you're using social media. Like, is this a substitution for real life? Are you an active user or a passive user? I'm a pretty passive user. I always say I'm like a stalker. I like to see what everybody's doing, but I don't post very often. And I'm sure that says something about me, so I probably should think about that. Does it leave you feeling better or worse after you use it? And make sure you're balancing your time with spending time offline with friends and things like that. So those are some good things to do with kids.
Good things.
Good things. With kids, you know, it's our responsibility. They don't always have the wisdom to take care of themselves the way they should. So we need to monitor their time. Do you have rules for your boy?
He usually asks my wife what he can do. His social media use has kind of impacted my relationship with one of my friends more than it's impacted anything for him, because he has he follows 4 people on Instagram, 3 professional athletes and my buddy. So now my buddy thinks he's like this big deal because, you know, he's one of the people Jaden picked.
Okay. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So he thinks he's in like a group with Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James. And he's
well,
not.
And I guess to your son, he kind of is.
Apparently.
Now, does that make you jealous? How do you feel about that, Steve?
No, it makes me think he has poor taste.
He has poor taste.
Bad judgment.
Enforce social media breaks with your kids, like those times during the day that they have to not have their phones with them. Teach them how social media is not always accurate, and encourage them to talk to you about what's going on. Particularly, young people, they, what are their friends posting? Is it accurate, or do they have concerns about? I remember a few years ago, my daughter came to me because one of her friends or acquaintances, like a social media friend, but not her friend, but had posted something that seemed almost suicidal. And so to encourage kids to come forward and talk to us about those things if we need to. What's that look for, Steve?
What's that?
You were making a look.
Oh, I was trying to read. I got like a little bubble in the corner that had the chat thing, and I was trying to figure out how to read what was being said.
Is there anything else you wanted to add about social media?
No, I think we covered pretty much, most of it. I do think that, social media does leave you feeling worse than it does better most of the time. Because once you click that, button on your phone to make it go away, it's gone. Like, you can be in the same room with someone and talking to them, and if there's a lull in the conversation, you're still in the same room together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So a couple comments here. Someone said that Herda said that her social media usage has definitely dropped because she's spending all day on the computer and she's tired of looking at a screen. That actually, I could see that. Where I know with therapists like myself who are doing telehealth all day, we have an increased risk of, therapists are reporting increases in headaches, migraines, all those things from just spending so much time on the screen. And then Noah said, my grandma is a Facebook stalker. So she and I have some things in common there. All right, so you got jokes for us today, Steve? You brought props, you got jokes?
No, I just brought props.
Just props.
Just my little thumbs up for things you said that I like, and my little stop it guy from all your trainings that you always have up there.
Bob Newhart, I just love that. That's my favorite. All right,
that's a great clip.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
I am.
I am who?
Don't you even know who you are? See, I thought that was a good joke for therapists to go. Okay. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Hike.
Hike who?
I didn't even know you liked Japanese poetry.
I did not. Did you know a piece of pie sells for $5 in the Bahamas?
No.
It's only $3 in Jamaica. You now know the Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's a good one. Okay. Some of the benefits of laughter. This is why it's important, particularly right now in times of crisis and unusual world. So laughter is good for the health. It relaxes the whole body. It boosts the immune system. It triggers all the release of those endorphins, protects the heart. It even helps you burn calories. It's hard to laugh. It's hard to be angry when you're laughing. And it can even help you to live longer. So it's really important stuff. Now, Jen, we had so I picked out some quarantine memes, the funny memes. Can you put those up, Jen?
I don't know if she's gonna be able to do that or not.
Thanks for she said, give me a sec. Give me a sec. Okay. So Steve, I think the reason I picked you to be on the webinars because I just think you're a funny guy to begin with. Like we're in those serious meetings.
I like that.
But you gotta crack a joke here and there, right?
You have to.
Yeah. I was gonna do you ever watch Saturday Night Live? Do you ever watch the news on Saturday Night Live?
Way back in the day. I don't. That's past my bedtime nowadays.
So now they have Colin Jost and Michael Shea, and every once in a while they'll write a joke for the other person to tell that the other person has to read on the air, has never seen it before. And of course, it's always a joke that you would never think that person would tell. So I thought about doing that to you today. And I did jokes, but I thought they were all too offensive.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And I was like, we're just trying to laugh and have a good time here. We're not trying to be offensive.
Well, send me those on my
private.
email. Yeah,
Okay.
I still want to see them.
Can everybody see these? Steve, can you see these memes?
I can, yes.
Okay, so prediction.
Oh,
Minor baby boom in 9 months. And then one day in 2033, we shall witness the rise of the quarantines. I think that is true. There's a lot more
Like that one.
stuff going on nowadays, which is kind of nice. Okay. I lost them, Jen.
They went away.
They went away. Okay, can you go to number 2? Okay, so here is what Where's Waldo looks like now. He's the only
I
one.
like that one too.
Okay. When you work at a bank and 2 guys with a mask come in, but they're just robbing the place.
Oh, just stop it.
All right. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Day 1. I've stocked up on enough non-perishable food and supplies to last me for months, maybe years, so I can remain in isolation for as long as it takes to see this pandemic out. Day 1 plus 45 minutes. I go to the supermarket because I want a Twix.
That's 100% me.
All right. Holy coronavirus. We need toilet paper. It's a respiratory virus, not Chipotle. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Day 2 without sports. Was this used? Found a young lady sitting on my couch. Apparently, she's my wife. She seems.
I saw one like that where they said they were watching the birds in their yard eat worms, and the Blue Jays were beating the Cardinals 8-3.
8-3. That's a good one. All right, things I've learned in the last week. Coronavirus is a novel virus, the mortality rate, blah, blah, blah. The last one is I effing love touching my face. We never realized that before, did we?
Yes.
This one's
The
my
mask. It's the masks. I didn't touch it until I started wearing the mask regularly.
So this is my favorite. The line, which somehow disappeared, says something like, time with family, what could go wrong? So go back to that last one, Jen. Do you remember what movie this is from?
You talking to me? The Shine? Is it The Shining?
This is The Shining. So yeah, think about like, yeah, what could go wrong if we spend extra time with our loving families?
I was wondering why you put that one on there because there was no words. So
I know. I don't know what happened to the words. The words somehow disappeared. Okay. Let's see if we have any questions or anything else we want to go over. I hope you guys really liked what we did today. A little bit of information to get out to you, but mostly we just want everybody to sit back and relax a little bit. Everybody, all of you are doing really hard work, and it's important that you keep doing it and that you're able to keep doing it. So
nice job, everybody.
Thank you so much for being on with me. It was everything I thought it would be.
We done then?
I think we're done then. Okay, we're going to sign off. Jen, will you end the meeting? All right, Steve. Take care, everybody.
Bye, Jill.
Bye, Steve. Be safe.
You too. Get out of here.
Jenny Jen.
Hello, did you close the meeting or end the meeting?
I don't know, did I? I left the meeting. Oh, wait, I'm leaving the meeting.